Why me? Between ages of 9 and 11 years old, I'd suffered abuse. Before age of 14, I tried taking my life on 5 occasions.
Those people who abuse you, so they didn't get done at all?
And now mainstream media cover it up and politicians do it. It don't shock me. There's been machetes pulled, people have had shotguns, you know, and it's been scary.
How do you go from working on the doors to ending up on crystal?
Going from like doing a gram a day up to 3 to 5 grams a day. I had about 30 grand in my bank and it just went drugs. At this point I was about 7.5 stone. I was just skinny, overgrown beard, pale, shaved all my hair off. I text my mum saying I think it's happening. I said I'm getting chest pains, my arm's feeling weird, everything feels, I think I'm going to die. And she said, I'll just stay with you till you go, love.
What has been the lowest point of your life? So today we are joined by Marcus Pereira. Now, Marcus, the reason I want to get you on this show, your story is probably one of the wildest stories I think I've ever had on the podcast, genuinely, mate, and I've interviewed a lot of people now, about 130 people. You know, instantly from the way you look, the fitness, the background you got, I think there's an image that a lot of people are going to see. Look at this guy, he's fit, he's full of tats, good-looking lad. But I know the story's a lot deeper, and I want to get into it. I know that you've been hooked on drugs and the worst kind, and your life has been... Let you just tell the story, mate. How did you grow up, bro?
Yeah, so I think it was Steve Jobs who said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only sort of connect them looking back. And at the stage I'm at now, looking back at everything that's happened to me, it's all sort of worked out nicely to get me to this point. But at the time when I was going through what I went through, it felt like hell. It was hell. And I tried many escape routes out at positions that I were in. And it all started from a young age, you know, and I think anybody that goes through anything like what I've gone through, they do ask themselves in the moment, why me? You know, why me? And it kind of is a bit of a victim mentality, but unless you've got to, you know, you need to have a bit of fire in you to try find a way out of dark times. And as long as you've got that fire and you've got a bit of a game plan and you sort of trust the process, you know, you can look back on them experiences as, you know, it was educational. But literally backtracking it started at a very young age for me. Literally age of 4, I lost my dad. My dad passed away in a car accident. He had previously with drugs, with addiction. He'd hurt his back at work. He was an apprentice electrician, and got prescribed all these powerful pain relief medications. And then he sort of progressed onto cannabis. Then that progressed onto heroin. And as a result of that, he obviously lost my mum, me. His behaviours went erratic, wild. And then he did have a year clean. And around the time of him being a year clean and sober, the story I was told from somebody who was in the car is that he relapsed that night on recreational drugs. And he fell asleep at the wheel when they were going to see the sunrise down in Southampton, I believe it was. And he fell asleep and he died later on in hospital, but everybody else in the car survived. So for me, growing up, it were like I get drip-fed stories of my dad and stuff like that, and I've seen pictures and I've got a few certain memories of him. But I was growing up thinking, well, you know, who's going to teach me to be a man? Who's, you know, what will my dad really like? And knowing all these stories about him, I've kind of lived his life, you know, like everything point for point. Obviously I've got a stepdad, class him as my dad. He's been with me since I was 2 years old. That relationship were, you know, a bit volatile growing up. Do you know what I mean? Now we're like best of mates. You know what I mean? I think there's always that, you know, that stepson, stepdad sort of relationship when kids are a bit younger. But no, it's a brilliant relationship now, and that's that like. But I think that were a lot of trauma for me to sort of grow up with at a young age. And then when I got to age of 9, between ages of 9 and 11 years old, I'd suffered abuse from 2 lads who lived at End of Street, who were considerably older than me, and it happened to quite a few of us around my age. It only came out about me, and I protected everybody else. I didn't want anybody else, anybody else's name to get out there, because I knew what were going to happen. But once this got out, I knew what were going to happen at school. And I was right, I was being called gay, I was being called this, and it got me to a point I was questioning my sexuality, because that happened to me, am I? Do you know what I mean? Am I? And I was young, and before age of 14, I tried taking my life on 5 occasions.
Yeah.
No 14-year-old should be thinking about taking their own life, especially because of something that's happened to them that was, they were manipulated into, they were groomed into, and to receive no sort of justice from police or from justice system, it kind of made me feel like, well, I'm alone. Do you know what I mean? Nobody really gives a shit.
Almost like it's allowed to happen.
Yeah, you look at what's going on in today's society, everything that's getting swept under the carpet, does it shock you? Do you know what I mean? Looking back at my case now, and looking at what's coming out in news and stuff lately, and how mainstream media cover it up and politicians do it, it don't shock me in its slightest. It kind of makes sense, but and I kind of want to say to people, for anybody to get through anything like that, it's easier said than done, but you have to find some sort of peace in your plan moving forward. I decided not to let that define me as a person, and now today, literally anything that happens to me, I think, right, cards are stacked against me, odds are against me, but that's when I thrive the most. Like, when I get put under pressure, that's when I will level up.
Because you can go one or two ways, can't you? You can go down the victim mentality. And I mean, I get it, rightly so. I think I'm more on your side. Obviously, if touch wood, nothing like that happened to me, but if it did, I think I would use it as a strength. I know that adversity that I faced growing up in certain occasions and stuff, I certainly went, I was hungry, I wanted to win, I wanted to succeed. There was a lot of things that I kind of do in today's age because of those occasions. Yeah. But with something as traumatic as what you've done, I can kind of understand why people would think the world's against them. There's no one looking after them, the police not getting involved. So are those people who abuse you, so they didn't get done at all?
I think they... So it carried on. So when it happened to me, I didn't come out and speak about it straight away. It was a few years down the line. And then it had happened to a lad who lived over at road. My brother had gone missing one day. And me and my mum were like, well, we knew who my brother was playing out on the street with at the time. And the lad he were playing with, he'd gone missing as well. And it just popped into my head, I've got an idea where they are. So I went to all sort of hot spots on the street, like the outhouses, the abandoned houses with garages at the back and everything. And the first place I went to, I sort of found them all. And the lad that my brother were playing with, he happened to win by these 2 lads as well. But we managed to get it out of the lad that lived opposite me that my brother were playing with that day. And they got arrested. And I think they served punishment for that, because obviously they were able to do sort of DNA testing and everything like that to make sure it were factual. With me, it came out later on down the line. My mum went on phone to my uncle, and I just started crying, and she was like, what's up with you? And I said, remember what happened to so-and-so? She was like, yeah. I said, what happened to me? And obviously she'd, there's a bit of history, in my mum's side of the family with that kind of stuff happening, and I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, some people look at that as like a generational curse type thing. And obviously the addiction side on my dad's side, the abuse on my mum's side sort of come down, met me in the middle. So I've sort of got both of it. And that's where my mentality now sort of comes from. It's up to me to break a generational curse now. I have to take action against it. But in terms of me, it was too late. It was too late to get any DNA testing, any swabbing, anything. So it was what it was.
Did you blame yourself, Marcus? Like, I know that's a mad question to ask, but did you think, like, I don't know the situation, but why did I knock around with these lads? Why did my mum and dad move here? Like, Do you know what I mean? Was all that creeping in, or was it just, you know, it is what it is? It's
I think at the time when it were all sort of, I definitely got to a point where I was sort of saying to my parents, like, you know, why we still living on the street, because they're, you know, the lads' parents still live at the end of the street, and it's like, you know, and some of their family, they've been known for sort of intimidating victims of the abuse, and it's like, why the fuck are we still, you know, why am I still living here? You know, why are we still here? Why do I have to bring my kids here now to this street when all this happened? You know what I mean? And but it was funny because the guy, the stepdad, I believe it is, of the two lads, he's bullying bastard, right? He's one of them, and he does like to intimidate victims' families. And then one night I went out drinking round Castleford, seen him in a local bar, and he was just sort of stopped and stared at him. And I were with all lads that I were with in a club that I were in at the time, and we all turned his attention to him, and he knew what were coming, and he just come past and says, "I don't want no trouble." I says, "It's too fucking late for that now, mate." Anyway, he ran out at the pub and he were gone, ran away. He didn't want to know, you know. So to me, that was a bit of closure. Like, listen, mate, yeah, you could, and even as a kid, you know what I mean. He'd try intimidate, stare whenever they saw me, even when I was like 15, 16. And it's like, listen, mate, yeah, I've grown up. I've got a bit bigger, mate. I'm a bit stronger. Let's have it. Didn't want to know. So that sort of put an end to that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm quite happy with that, to see a man who puts himself out there as a big bad bully run away from somebody that I used to bully. That's icing on cake for me, and I don't really have to smash his face in. Do you know what I mean?
You alright, people? Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Here's a random one for you. Most of you who are actually watching this episode don't actually subscribe to it, so just do us a favour, will you? Can you click the like button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss another episode, hit subscribe, all that good stuff, because we go up and down the country to try and bring you the best show possible. We're not messing around here, so please just show some love, will you? Do you know what's better though, mate? Right, even them fucking idiots, you know, the lads who did what they did.
Yeah.
Regardless of the dad and that, like, I know that somewhere along the line they'll have seen what you're doing now and the success you're having. God, yeah. That's gonna kill them so much more than any fucking punch could do. Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Let's be real here. Like, when things like that happen, I know that again, mate. Like, there's certain scenarios when I told you off air, when certain things have happened to me, and I've seen them people later down the line, and I've been with this person or that, and they're like, "How the fuck is he?" And it's almost like, yes. Fucking won. I've already won. I didn't need to just find out now. Like, that's it. Anybody that ever sort of does me wrong, or like I said, when my back's against the wall now, that's when I move. You know, I said to you off camera a minute ago, didn't I, that there's a, you know, normally there's like a pinnacle moment in somebody's life, and it's normally when you're a child, and it's up to you to decide whether you're going to use that as a weight that's going to pull you down, or rocket fuel to sort of catapult you to the next level. Because I'm highly ambitious, you know what I mean? I dabbled in businesses, all that kind of stuff, and found out I was good at sales, and I had gift at gab in that sense. But whatever I did, I just wasn't passionate about it. Do you know what I mean? And I found that my greatest education, I didn't really do well at school, and I found my greatest education were my traumas. It was my life. That was my university of hard knocks, as they say, and it served me pretty well. But then obviously, going back to the abuse and everything like that sort of triggered off a shitload of bullying at school, which actually served the purpose for me, because it built character, and it allowed me to start defending myself. Started boxing, kickboxing, became really good at that, taekwondo. Spat dummy out though, because they wouldn't grade me to my black belt, and you know, I was like, fuck that, I quit, and that was it. So I just sort of dotted about to different things, but then from that, everything that I did from that point was to prove a point to people, but I did it in the wrong way. So I started working as a doorman, as a bouncer in Pontefract. You know, littlest bouncer you've ever seen, youngest bouncer you've ever seen, but
got a bit of a reputation for being a bit of a wild card. People would come up purposely. People that I knew would come up purposely just to challenge me. People that I went to school with.
Really?
Is that everybody wants to bang a bouncer?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it would never be me leaving with blood on my face. But at that point, you know, I was using on door, I was sniffing on door, drinking, you know, and that's a big thing in doorman culture. You know what I mean? They're there to prevent that happening, but a lot of them do it.
How long were you a doorman for?
About 2 years.
2 years.
About 2 years, yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I did in the beginning. But then when me and my partner D sort of, you know, we were trying for his first child, Diago, and when she dropped on pregnant, it was like reality set home that this is a bit too dangerous now. It's not that, you know, I'm chickening out from it, but it's just I've got to put that first. And then I started doing static security. And I started getting a load of door contracts for this company who were based up in North East. Like, I was getting them contracts local to me. And I just thought to myself, what am I doing here? Like, why am I getting them door contracts when the customer's buying into me? I should set up myself. So I literally did. And the company I was working for at the time found out that I was setting up. So they come down, sacked me. But the day they sacked me, they literally escorted me off the site with my box of stuff, classic scene that you see in, you know, like American films. You've just been fired out of office and you've got all your shit in box. And a minibus picked me up with 20 of my lads in, and we went to Bolton to do the pit front at stage for Killer's concert at the football arena in Bolton. And because the day before I went on phone to somebody from show and event security, and he says, look, if you get me 15 to 20 lads, he says, I'll pay you 30 quid an hour. He says, you pay lads what you want. He says, and then day after, if it goes well, you can have Little Mix, and then we'll do this, and I'll get you at Kendall Calling Festival and Leeds Fest, Reading, everything. So literally, I've been sacked that day. And then what I'd made in 2 months working for that company, I made in a few hours off my own accord. And I think at that point, I thought, I've got something. I've just got something.
Did you have any other aspirations though? Because I know you said you kind of didn't do very well at school and stuff, but that doorman life, obviously, it's not really a long life, is it?
No.
So did you have? Because obviously, you can tell you're an entrepreneur, you can tell you're a hustler, you might say you can tell that anyway. But did you have it in your head that wouldn't be the end of you just working on the doors? Did you want something else?
Yeah, I think that kind of led into my downfall in a way, because I always wanted to. It's weird. There's a wide contrast here, because I wanted to be a firefighter, but then I wanted to be next Johnny Depp. Do you know what I mean? Like how do you get from one end to the scare? I don't know. But because I was like nowhere, I think being a doorman kind of just that was like the middle of it for me, because it's like I could show character in a weird way, but I was also running towards danger. I like running towards danger. You know, the armed forces appealed to me. You know, being a police officer appealed to me. I ended up going other way completely. Sort of being gang affiliated in that sense, but you know, I went the other way with that. But I kind of got to a stage where I was like, I'm just not what I ever set out to be. And it kind of depressed me, that, because I knew that I had potential. I knew I had something to offer the world, and I could make something of myself. And the fact that I was just settling for a job, that was just dead end. Nobody respected you. I didn't even respect myself.
Do you think you were looking for respect?
Yeah.
Because of what you'd been through and stuff?
1,000,000%. I was looking for what I did there. What I got into that line of work, not because I wanted to be a doorman. I got into that line of work to prove a point that nobody could fuck with me or overpower me. Do you know what I mean? That's why I did it. That's why I ended up later on prospecting for a motorcycle club. To have reputation, to have status. I did it for the wrong reasons. And when you do things that look good on paper, but you do it for the wrong reasons, it does lead to your demise. 1,000,000%. You know, the one bit of advice I give anybody is that if you're looking at going down a certain route, if you're looking to be affiliated with a certain group of people or going to a certain line of work just for image, right, it is going to lead to your downfall, because you need to be doing something for the right reasons. But I did that to put it out there that nobody could fuck with me. And I did achieve that. It worked. Do you know what I mean? It worked. I could walk through Castleford and people go, oh, he's affiliated with that.
Did anybody try it though?
Oh, yeah, God, yeah. Loads of people would try it.
What type of shit? Like
Oh, it'd just be, they'd walk up and they'd just sort of say, they'd just get like snide remarks in like, oh, you're all a bunch of pussies or whatever. And rule is, if you say all bad about, what I were sort of involved in, then you had to bang them.
Was anyone pulling up knives or all like that?
There's been a few times, mate, where I've walked into situations where there's been machetes pulled. People have had shotguns, and it's been scary. I have to be careful what detail I go into here, but to me that was a thrill, that was adrenaline.
It's mad, isn't it?
It did not fucking, the fact that I had 2 kids at home and a missus, that didn't occur to me in that moment.
How old were they at the time when you were on the doors?
So I was about 22 years old. My missus at the same age as me. She was still pregnant with my son. So I did go through the weapons being pulled out when I was associated with a certain group of people.
Right, okay.
But on the doors, absolutely. One story that sticks to mind is a bunch of Romanian gypsies tried to get in through the entrance at nightclub. And we were like, absolutely not, because Anthony Joshua and whoever had been fighting that night, so you know what it's like when boxing's on, everybody's a fucking fighter. And we were like, absolutely not, piss off. Checking on cameras, they'd come round back, they were trying to jump over, there were vandal grease on fences, but they still managed to get over. So anyway, we sort of positioned ourselves right. So, right, yeah, lads, come in, sort of escorted them through club. And then when they realised we were taking them back to the front door, the biggest bastard there turned round and put his hand in and pulled the knife out. So my head doorman jumps on him, and then it just turns into this massive brawl. And then, to me, it was just like, right, my man's got a knife. Like, I don't know who else has got a knife. Fuck it, I just went into attack mode. And I was the littlest lad on that door team. It was funny, if you just watched it from a distance, it was like having a bunch of fucking Cane Corsos and a little Jack Russell just coming in and dominating. I just started throwing, picking out up, smashing people over the head with it, getting them on the floor, punching them in the back of the head while they were on the floor, kicking the face while they were down, everything. Obviously, I got questioned about it by police, and I said to the police, well, let's put it this way, officer. If it was your colleague on the floor and somebody had a knife, yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd be...
You're going to do whatever it
takes. Yeah, you're going to do whatever it takes. It's necessary use of force, right? It's either them or it's him or it's me, right? And it ain't going to be me and it ain't going to be my team. Right, and that was just my protective side coming out over my team, because I used to, mate, even Job Centre now, they will give anybody an SIA badge, right, and they'll stick them on this door. And it's like, the first question I used to ask somebody is, I'd never judge him how they look. If it were a skinny lad, 18-year-old, I'd never judge him because he might be an absolute beast. He might be clued up, he might be a good talker, talk people down. But I'd say, are you prepared not to go home tonight to your family? Are you prepared to jump in front of a blade for me? Because I will for you. I don't know you. I don't know your kids. I don't know if you're a good person or a bad person, but I will die for you tonight because you stood next to me. And some people would fuck off and leave.
I think the majority would fuck off.
Yeah, that's it. But you have to tell them that. You have to put
very
that...
army mentality, isn't it? Almost.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, I've never served. Do you know what I mean? But I know a lot of people that have. But I think some people, this is what I'm saying. Whatever job I do, I will do it properly. I'll do it, but I have to be passionate about it.
It's a brotherhood, though, isn't it, though, Marcus? Like, you kind of can't be a bouncer and be a pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's not going to, again, that's going to lead to your demise, and it might physically lead to your actual death. Do you know what I mean? That does happen. There's a load of bouncers who've died, do you know what I mean?
You are literally, every time you put that tie on or that badge, you might not come home.
How do you go from working on the doors to ending up on crystal meth?
A lot of it was, obviously, when I started using drugs, it started how it always starts for people, a bit recreational, obviously, because...
Was this while you were working on the doors?
Yeah. But obviously, first drug I ever tried was when I was like 16-year-old. Never again. Like, put me into a bad hole. I was like, nah. But then obviously when I was working on doors, my mentality when I started working on doors were like, no, like, you don't do drugs, drugs are bad for you, I'd pour it down the sink and everything. But then other people come in, you notice other people are using it, that are working, and you get persuaded. It's like moving to a different area of the country and somebody's accent rubbing off on you. Their personality traits and their bad habits can rub off on you if you're susceptible to letting people do that with you. And it did. And it started one night, a little bit of a drink while working. Feel all right, made you a bit quicker, made you a bit more alert. And then that was it. And then it gets to a point where, my shift would finish at 4 in the morning, but I'd get home at 9. Do you know what I mean? I had to make some bullshit story up that something had happened in club and police would come and I had to do reports and shit. And I was just session. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it sort of... So I started out very anti-drug on doors. And then I was very pro-drug. And then we had his son. Me and Dee had his first child, Diago. And I sort of toned it down. You know what I mean? Massively. I started doing all static work. Then I became entrepreneurial a lot more. And, started to get contracts for doors and festivals and all that kind of stuff. And then I got involved with another crowd of people, and it was the same sort of thing, what other people were into. I was easily led. I became easily led. I got involved in that kind of thing for wrong reasons. It became apparent that, it wasn't the lifestyle for me because it just caused problems. So gracefully I got let go from that. And when I came away from that, I actually lost my missus and the kids the same day, because at this point I was banging 3 to 5 grams of in there as well. With alcohol, obviously, excessive amounts of alcohol just for good measure. Psychosis, paranoia, 4 days awake, no food, no water, nothing. Like having psychosis episodes to the point of running down the fucking street with a knife and stabbing up a green wheelie bin, because I was so certain looking out the window somebody were coming to kill me. And again, it's me or you, mate, so wheelie bin had it.
Had you lost your job, Marcus, at this point?
Yeah, I lost my job.
So did you get rid of your business? Because obviously I know you said you were doing contracts and stuff.
Yeah, so that happened, but then obviously around this time I was working in a factory, working in a warehouse, creating like cable lines for bikes and cars, like brake cables and stuff. And it was a very sort of hands-on sort of job, and I wasn't happy there. I really want. I've done loads of different jobs. I've packed frozen meat. I've worked in, I've worked for DHL and everything. Do you know what I mean? I've been them people on the streets trying to get you signed up to contracts, for EE and Dogs Trust and all that stuff. So I've done a wide range of things. I've never been shy of dabbling in different sort of professions and all that kind of stuff and different career paths. But when I was working in warehouse, it was just depressing, and then I started using it at work. But before that, the career that I had that I did want to go far in, I was working for a care home for people with severe autism and learning disabilities. And I worked my way up to deputy manager for a new home that they were opening in Bradford. And I grafted for that. Do you know what I mean? I really grafted for that. And that line of work were quite dangerous. But it were good. It ticked all boxes for me because there were a caring aspect to it. But at the same time, there were a dangerous element of it. And I enjoyed that. I got an adrenaline rush off it, and I felt accomplished at the end of the day, helping somebody that needed the help. And then I went and messed it all up, mate, by, that's when drug use sort of really, really started again. And then it was just a case of started using at work, and then the day that I lost that job, I'd fallen asleep in the sleep room, and somebody coming and seeing me asleep, and I was a senior member of staff on site that day with the keys to the medication cupboard, with life-saving medication in that cupboard for patients. So if somebody went into a seizure and they needed to be administered this certain medicine to bring them round, I was the one that had the keys to that, and I'd fallen asleep because the night before I'd been off my head. So I carried a lot of shame and guilt because of that. Do you know what I mean? And everything I'd worked towards had gone within moments.
What was the missus saying about... Obviously, did she take the kids away from you at this point?
So she stuck by me through a lot. A fucking lot. And as an addict, you will hold on to any piece of thread that you're given. So yeah, she kicked me out loads of times, and she had me back because I promised it, well, I'll change. And I never did. It was a cycle. Get kicked out, be clean for a few days, make it look like I'm cleaning myself up, come back, give it a week or so, back at it. Do you know what I mean? Cycle would repeat. And then, obviously, when I came away from the biking community, that day, I'd lost her and the kids. That was it, done. And literally, that was the worst day because I'd gone down to the house. I was so convinced that she had somebody in the house. I was very paranoid that she was cheating on me, all that kind of stuff. You know, I was searching explicit sites to see if she was posting pictures on there. It was mad. You know, going on websites with prostitutes, having a look, see if she were on there marketing herself, and it was just chaotic.
That's all because of the drugs, isn't it?
That's it. That's what the drugs do. But I think it takes your insecurities, you know. And I don't know if that's because I didn't feel confident in myself, because at this point I was about 7.5 stone. I was just skinny, overgrown beard, pale, shaved all my hair off. I just looked horrible, you know. Yellow teeth, didn't look after myself. Nothing. And I'm thinking, she can't be attracted to me. She'll be looking for something better, or she's already got better. But that was drugs, you know. I was completely ignoring the reality that throughout everything I put through, all the questioning, all the accusations, she stuck by me, you know. But yeah, she hit a point where she snapped and she was like, right, you're done. And that,
which is fair enough, though.
Of course it is.
You know what I mean? Like, fucking hell, like, I can't imagine any bird in the world sticking by a man who's going to do that, do you know what I mean? But then ultimately, are you still with her now?
Oh, yeah.
Are you with her now?
So we separated.
We
separated for 3 months, right? And it got worse for me then. Like, I lost the community that I were in with biking. I lost her and the kids. I was back at my mum and dad's. The only thing that was left for me were drugs. So I was going from like doing a gram a day up to 3 to 5 grams a day. Right, I had about 30 grand in my bank from an inheritance that I got from Portugal, and it just went.
The lot.
Drugs. That was it. Just drugs. Straight on it. And it were, like I said, predominantly alcohol, literally just.
Were you doing this on your own, or were you like living on the streets and all that?
I was isolated in the spare room at my mum and dad's house, just doing that. Bang, bang, bang.
What were they saying about it?
Well, it's not ideal, but they'd have preferred me being
in
there as opposed to being on the streets. You know, my mum was prepared for me to die soon. She built that scenario up in her head millions of times. So it got to so in that 3 months that me and Mrs. went together, I made a lot of bad decisions. Right, did a lot of things I shouldn't have done that made her hate me even more. But then one day I got asked a question. Like I think about 45 days clean and sober. And I got asked the question like, do you see yourself getting married in future? And I said, yeah. And they says, who do you see yourself marrying? And I said, D. And they says, well, there you go. That's all you need to know. And I messaged her and I says, can we meet up face to face? You know, before that, there were a lot of arguments back and forth. I was blaming her for shit. She was blaming me for shit. And she was like, no, all you've got to say to me, you just text me on here. And I says, right, you've got the right to tell me to get fucked. After everything I put you through then and what I've put you through lately. I said, but it's always going to be you. I want to be with you and kids. I want to marry you. I love you to pieces and everything. And without hesitation, she says, I'll pick you up in the morning. And that was it. And we got back together. Trying for the 3rd baby now. And yeah, she's just been my absolute rock. And she just said, I always loved you, even when you were at your worst, even when you were accusing me, all the shit that you did that I hated you for. Everything I found out about you. Like, I still loved you. Do you know what I mean? And it literally, that is the difference between somebody that says, yeah, you're my bro, or, you know, you're my best mate, and I'll be there for you through thick and thin. That right there. Do you know what I mean? I see a lot of lads this day and age making the same mistake. They're prioritising a bunch of dossers, a bunch of people that they get on session with that would not turn up to their house at middle of the night if they're having a mental health crisis.
100%.
When they've got a woman there who's been through thick and thin, you've thrown verbal and psychological abuse at that poor lass, and they're still willing to take you back. Do you know what I mean? That to me were like, boom, she's her immediate family, the kids. That's my circle, and that's how it's always going to be. But then, like I say, looking back now at everything, the entrepreneurialism, the story, everything I've gone through, I thought, right, there's a place for this now. And that's when I started Mean and Clean. And that came to me back end of my addiction. Because like I said a minute ago, my mum had expected me to die. Right? She played the scenario out in her head loads of times. And I bought all these drugs, invested in all these drugs to kill me off. I didn't want to do like a rapid overdose. I didn't want to hang myself or anything like that, which is funny because that's how I always imagined myself dying, through hanging myself.
So you'd thought about this multiple times?
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah. I didn't see no way out, but at the same time, I had all these aspirations still that I wanted to achieve.
It's so crazy how your mind can have direct opposites. Aspirations to do well,
yeah.
and to take your
own
life.
Well, that was addiction trying to bring me down because it knew I was fighting back. Just thinking about being a better person, addiction didn't like that. Whether you want to call it devil or whatever, demons, it was thinking, nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So, literally, it was a case of I got all these drugs in and I text my mum saying, I think it's happening. She was at work. I said, I'm getting chest pains, my arm's feeling weird, everything feels, I think I'm going to die. So she came back from work and she sat down, bit bed next to me, and she said, I'll just stay with you till you go, love. And what I said to her was, I give her the details from our banking app, and I said, when I die, I said, just give it half an hour before you ring ambulance. I says, get onto my online banking, transfer all my money to you. I says, so that the kids are set up. Because I didn't have a will, you know what I mean? I didn't have anything sort of like that. I just sort of wrote a bit of a suicide note type thing explaining that. And I says, just transfer the money and then give it half an hour, make sure I'm dead, and then ring them. And then she held my hand while I were drifting off, and then just under 24 hours later, I woke up. And when I say I woke up, I fucking woke up.
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram. Where were you?
I went at my mum and dad's house in its spare bed. She literally sat by the bed holding my hand while I went, and I thought, this is it, I'm gone. But I woke up. And I made a bit of a joke about it when I woke up with it next morning. I says, well, it didn't fucking happen. She went, fucking, you can't even do that right. I says, I know. But literally, as soon as I opened my eyes, there was a picture of my missus and kids on the windowsill. And I was like, nah, time to stop. Do you know what I mean? And from that point, it was like, I'm not religious by any means, but I could not believe that I said, if there is a God, can you just give me a bit of a fucking sign? Do you know what I mean? And then I found somebody that had gone through the same sort of journey that were able to point me in the right direction. But the day before my mum come down to sit with me before I died, she used to come down early hours at morning before work. But she started coming down 2 hours earlier than she normally would because she knew I'd be downstairs off my rocker chatting absolute bare shit. So she came down 2 hours earlier so I could get it all out. And I was talking shit to her, and then I turned round. I said, Mum, I says, I know I'm a mess and everything like that. I says, but one day I will get clean. I will start a company. I will help people get clean and sober. I says, and I'll be one of the most famous people in the world for it. I says, I'm telling you. She says, and then I just switched and I was back to mode again. She said, but that moment I knew that a bit of you was still there. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I physically come out with it, and then addiction sort of next day were like, nah mate, we're done, you're dead. But I just had a really good kit for 24 hours. And
did you go back on the drugs after that?
No. Well, I found a mentor. I got to 8 days clean and sober. I think every addict goes through it. You get a bit of time under your belt, you start feeling fresh, you're eating, you feel good, and you think, I ain't got a problem. I'm fine, I ain't got no fucking issue. Maybe I'll just do it in moderation. Do you know what I mean? I went down to watch Anthony Holmes fight. I think he won't fighting Danny Christie, I can't remember who it was. But I went down to a mutual friend of mine and Anthony's house, and I knew there were going to be dealers there. I knew there were going to be alcohol there, drugs, everything. And that was it. Bang. I relapsed. It wasn't a bad relapse, but it was a relapse enough to make me realise, what the fuck have I just done? It was just shame, regret, everything. And then from that point on, I am now 579 days clean and sober.
Fucking congratulations, mate. That's mad, man.
But literally 2 or 3 days into being clean and sober, I was wide awake in bed at 2:30 in the morning, sober. And a wolf popped into my head. Like, why am I thinking about wolves? You know what I mean? And then name, mean and clean popped into my head. And I thought, that's good. I like that. Designed a logo. Designed the logo so it would had a bit of my background in it at the same time. Few subliminal messages in there as well if you look closely at it. And I thought I'd do a podcast around addiction. Just get people on talking about addiction and recovery and stuff. Because I literally posted my journey from day one. I went on Facebook, my own personal Facebook page, and says, surprise motherfuckers, I'm a crackhead. It surprised some people, it didn't surprise others. Do you know what I mean? But I knew that I were going to start a company that I've got now. And I knew that the best way to do that, the best way to get people believing in me was to show it from day one. Not pop up now and say, I had these problems 2 years ago. No, I've got this problem now. And I want to invite you all to go through it with me day by day. So people that follow me today, a lot of them saw it from day one.
That's mad that you had the foresight. It's almost, obviously you've been through all the trauma and everything you've been through, mate, to get to this point, and obviously you're clearly a lovely bloke, and everything you've done, changed lives and achieved, all because you went through the shit you went through. But at the same time, it's almost like it's premeditated. Like, yeah. I'm gonna be a kid so I can help these people, because who goes on Facebook and tells everybody I'm a comeback?
Yeah, I know.
Who does that? Do you know what I mean?
But I did tell people, get ready for a fucking mega comeback. Everybody says that. Everybody goes,
they do,
this is my year. No, I meant it. I fucking meant it. And, end of the year, when I got that 1 year sober, there were people I've had on Facebook for years that said, I know I've never commented on any of your stuff, Marcus, but I've watched you come back and it's the best comeback I've ever seen. You stuck to your word, you did what you did. I've been nominated for awards, been on multiple podcasts, helped change the lives of over 1,000 people in under 2 years. Got fucking sponsorships from supplement brands. I've run races, made new friends, You
compete in high rocks and all that.
High rocks, everything. It's the past 2 years have been, I've never had a better relationship with me missus and my kids. Like I've done in 2 years. Well, I did in 1 year, in 12 months, but some people struggle to do in 5, and not just in a recovery standpoint, but from a business element as well. Created it just sharing my journey to now having over 1,000 people on my programme.
Is that how many you got on your programme?
Well, that's how many I've had collectively.
Over the
course of it, yeah. My content, my videos can do upwards of 2.4 million views. Just talking on a 90-second video, just talking about addiction and how you get to that stage, talking about the scenarios of being off your head, being in somebody's kitchen, the porn sites that you're looking on, all that kind of stuff that is relatable to people, and it just one 90-second video has reached millions of people, right? But it all goes back to that first couple of days in recovery when I said, I want to be one of the biggest faces in the world when it comes to addiction recovery. And I found myself thinking, yeah, but what about that guy? He does it. And I thought, no, fuck that guy. Right, I'll just do my thing. Just be true to you. Talk about your story. Don't look at anybody else's shit. Don't focus on anybody else's journey. Just be genuine. Speak from your heart. Just show your journey. And that's what I did. And it just gained traction. And now it's just grown arms and legs. And it's become the fastest growing recovery company in UK and Europe.
Fucking hell, mate.
Yeah.
I've said this a couple of times on podcasts when I've heard mad stories. Hairs on my neck, mate. That is fucking...
And the funny thing is, I've not even started. I don't even feel like I've started.
I was going to say, where are you going to be in 5 years' time?
Well...
Do you know what I mean? Like, what? Do you have a plan?
Of course I do.
Because I know, of course you do. But like, even of getting over 1,000 people through your programme, mate, some people, that's their life's work to do that. If you've done that 18 months, 24 months in, what is your plan?
So... I've always said it from day one, like that moment I made that logo, because it were like on Canva that I made logo, and you can kind of put the logo onto like t-shirts and mugs and like building signs just to sort of see how it's going to look, on different sort of things, different objects. And when I saw all them things, I'm like, yeah, I could sell merchandise, T-shirts. And then when I saw the street sign thing, like a fucking like a sign outside a shop, I was like, it hit me. I was like, wellness recovery centre, but not like a rehabilitation centre, not like somewhere people go to sit in a circle and hold hands and cry, like ice tubs, saunas, counselling rooms, a cafe in there for people suffering with addiction that have got severe autism that don't fit into society and can't go get a job. I can employ them into them, pay them a wage so they feel like they're achieving something. But literally, I want to open it up for veterans with PTSD, veterans that are living on the street, that are struggling with addiction, that are homeless. Get them in there, give them an address so they can get, a bank account. When they get an address and a bank account, they can then go get a job. When they get a job, they can earn money. When they earn money, they can get housed. So everything government can't be asked doing, I want to help do it. Victims of domestic violence, right? They don't know how to do it. What about if they could ring a number? They could get picked up from wherever they are, taken to a safe space that's undisclosed. By the time they get there, police are there, ready to do swabs, ready to deal with it, and it's all done. They don't have a chance to back out. That person's arrested, blah, blah, blah. It's a safe space for them. Everything that is a big problem that is underfunded by the government, that's what I want to take on. And I want to have one of those wellness centres in every major UK city up and down the country in the next 5 to 10 years. That's my aim. That's my goal. Is
your first step to get one in Castleford?
It'll be local to Castleford, so maybe Wakefield, Leeds area. But the more of a success one is, then obviously it'll grow arms and legs. But
I think the world needs more people like you, mate. Certainly this country needs more people like you, because again, the more kind of outlets or platforms that people can provide for these people, even talking on podcasts and being vulnerable with your story, I want to say thank you, mate. I really appreciate that, because for one, I imagine this, I mean, you'll know this, but there'll be thousands and thousands of men or women across the, the UK that have suffered the things you've suffered and worse, and probably not even made any steps to bottle that shit up to a point where, it's just affecting them and their family.
Yeah.
By you talking about this. But even the way I look at it, because I'm into fitness, I'm into stuff like that and gym and all that. And I like to see anybody going from something to something, regardless, nothing to something. I love that story. I mean, everyone likes a kind of a zero to hero story. But when someone's not just done that, they've wanted to take their own life multiple times. They've, been a effectively, you've told the world, you've had a vision, you've been the lowest of the low, you've did the door work, you've had all these different jobs. When you actually look at it on the spectrum, the life that you've lived in such a short space of time and what you've managed to do, it's clearly a you thing. It's clearly you that have got this superpower. It's something that I believe you had to go through all the shit, because you're clearly built to handle it, to help people. If you don't go through with it, mate, it's like this, isn't it? When the doctor says to somebody they've got cancer, there's a good chance they'll stop smoking.
Yeah.
Why does something fucking horrible have to happen for a change to be made?
Action, yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? And unfortunately for you, you've had to be that guinea pig almost and go through that shit. But how many people around the world can be positively impacted and already have and will continue to do so because of you? Mate, that's fucking remarkable. It's absolutely fucking, mate, it blows me mind having these conversations.
And like I say, it's not even started yet, you know what I mean? Like I was at Yorkshire Choice Awards a couple of weeks ago and I bumped into Luke Ambler, founded him at Andy's Man Club, and we knew who each other were, and we just said we need to address something together nationally, you know, me and Clean and Andy's Man Club together. I just think that'd be a fucking force to be reckoned with, to be honest. So, you know, like a lot, there is a big emphasis around men's mental health at the minute, but the thing that is not being brought up is that, you know, a large percentage of those men that take the life, the moment they do it, they are usually under the influence heavily of substance or alcohol to give them that courage to just do it. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody, because, people, you know, do take their own life when they are sober and clean, depending how bad everything is that's going on. But it seems to be, you know, they sing the last song and dance the last dance when they've taken something. And, you know, a lot of bad mental health these days, it is caused by drug taking. You take away the drugs and all of a sudden, you feel better. Start changing your daily habits, start exercising, eating right, talking to like-minded people that are on a journey of self-development, you know, change your vibe, attract a different tribe, all that kind of stuff. It has a massive effect in a positive way on somebody's life, not just swallowing a tablet that a GP is going to prescribe you, right? That's
Change your vibe, attract a different tribe. I like that. I've never heard that before.
That's it. And it's, well, yeah, your vibe attracts your tribe, but you need to change the vibe to attract the tribe. Do you know what I mean? And it's, but the best way I'd say to do that is do it on your own. Find your vibe on your own. Don't go begging to be a part of, you know, a community of people. Don't go seeking that approval. Do it because the people will come to you. Do you know what I mean? People will come to you. If people don't want to be around you because they look at you and they've got this perception, people look at me and probably think, how's if other fucks I think he is? Now he's done this. Yeah, well done. You got over addiction, but you're doing all these podcasts and stuff like that. Mate, if you don't want to fuck with me, don't fuck with me.
Yeah, and
I don't care.
At the end of the day, the people who hate just let you know you're winning.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? That's where you go, look, there's no point in even trying to look at them people because fucking we all get it, mate. If you're on YouTube and you're doing something moving forward, mate, there's always going to be that.
Of course it is. But the way I look at it now, right, the impact, when you know you've had a positive impact on somebody's life, right, and they tell you that you've had a positive impact on their life, that's all well and good. But what we don't see, the impact, the other way that we can positively impact the haters or people, some people don't hate, they just watch from a distance and keep you close, you know, they'll keep you close and copy your blueprint or try to compete with you, right? Even if they don't give you credit for their progress, you still help them because they're competing with you. So you helped light a fire under their ass to improve their own life, but they'll never give you kudos for it. But that don't matter to me. Right, I want to see people do well. I want to see people go through ranks. I want everybody to just be successful. Do you know what I mean? And you know, one thing I'd say to everybody is just watch what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, the thing is, there's enough food to go around. Like everybody can win.
Of course,
you know what I mean. But everyone's in this like stamp, take. Yeah. People away. Everyone can have a go at it. Do you know what I mean? But people want to try and take the kind of victories that someone's making, but it's more a reflection about their life, mate. And that, you know, it's a shame that people have to live that way. But I've got two questions for you, Marcus. What has been the lowest point of your life?
The lowest point, you see, there were so many, but I just think it would definitely a point where I came to a conclusion that I just wanted to die. Obviously, when I'd lost everything around me, social circle, people I considered brothers, you know, I lost my missus, my kids, everything like that. The day I decided I was going to take my own life, that was definitely the lowest point. Probably being laid in bed, my mum holding my hand, expecting me to go.
It's harrowing, that like, just to listen to. That's horrible, that, like. You know, the UK, mate, you see a lot of people with who are suffering from addiction and have got all different types of things going on and they're on the streets. Now, for someone like you who I can tell, obviously entrepreneurial, very hungry, talented, it's easy for me to look at you and say, you've clearly got enough about you to do what you've done. And that's not saying people who haven't done it yet haven't got that, because I believe everybody can do it. For someone who's on the streets, right, and you're seeing this message is going to get spread, I want to try and promote you as much as I can, and I certainly will with this piece of content, mate. But what does someone do who's really battling? How do they? Because again, we've talked about the fact that there's not a lot of help out there. There's people are getting kind of palmed off and stuff, and people are on the streets living really rough, taking heroin, whatever drug it is. To be honest, what can someone actually do to take that step? Because you hear it like you just got to believe it. You only change if you want to change. All the kind of cliche shit that you normally hear, which I get. There's truth, there's weight in that. But what can someone actually do to get out of the situation they're in?
Fight like you've never fucking fought before. Like literally, that like I said to you off camera. You know, all this. You see these reels on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. People saying it's discipline, it's this, it's that, it's mindset. It fucking is. If you are at the bottom of the barrel, right, there is always a way out. In fact, I always say to people, the lower you are, the better, because that's fuel. Like, you look at people these days, they've got an house to live in, they've got food in the fridge, you know, they can pay for the utilities, they've got an iPhone, and the moan that, oh, they ain't got this, they ain't got that, right? And you've got somebody that is literally living on the street, right? You know, and they could be dead in a matter of weeks, days. You know, there are people like that exist that have fought back through the fire and become something amazing. You know, people are killed to have what we've got these days. You know, some people are killed to have that. But for anybody that is in that position, I really would say you'll do anything you can to make it happen. You'll knock on every door. You'll go anywhere and everywhere. You'll find a way to do it. You know, I don't have the answers for everybody, right? But I never got to the point where I was on the streets, right? But I could see how quickly it could have ended up like that for me, because if I'd have carried on, my mum would have kicked me out and I would have been on the streets. But even if I was, I'm pretty sure with my mentality I'd have found a way to come back. But this is the thing, a lot of people don't know what to do. That's why I want to start with Meaning Clean centres. And I want to be able to go out, find people, bring them in, clothe them, clean them, help them, rebuild them. You know, that's the mission. But whatever situation anybody is in, right, you either use it as an anchor or you use it as fuel. Some people, this is the kicker, some people like to be a victim, some people like to be a victim of circumstance, and some people like to be washed up by a victim's mentality for the rest of their life because it gets them attention, right? Yeah, you want attention, we'll get attention for the right reasons. Don't get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Don't let that you know, all the attention of
kind of cloud. Yeah, like,
I know what you mean. Push past it. You know, push past it. Like I generally have a rule now that if something pisses me off, I give myself 5 minutes. Have a bitch fit about it, and then it's done. Move forward. I'm human. I feel emotions, right? But fucking push your way out of it. You know what I mean? Because the more you let it eat you up, you're just going to be a victim of that circumstance for the rest of your life. You know? But no, even people living on streets, mate, you know, I've heard some fantastic comeback stories, people like that, and it is doable. It can be done. You have got to want it enough. This is the thing, nobody's coming to save any of us. Nobody's coming to save you, right? Only you can save yourself. I've dealt with people through my program that sign up, they want to do it, but it's a bit of hard work, innit? Yeah. I'll just go back to doing lines every week.
It's got to be hard work, innit?
And it's like, even I've had to get to the point where I've had to realise I can't save everybody. Do you know what I mean? And I never wanted to turn my back on anybody. But if you're trying to help somebody more than they're trying to help themselves, you're actually not helping at all. You are not helping them if they don't want to help themselves.
Yeah, so you've got to want it more than what you've got to want it for them.
That's it. Some people become accustomed to that way of life of having nothing, and some people are used to that, and some people want that. We might look at it and go, fucking hell, that's bad. But to them, that's just normal. And they can't. But if you really want a better life, mate, fucking make it happen. Anybody can make it happen. I can't see how you can't.
Marcus, I want to say thank you so much, mate, for coming on the show.
Mate.
Honestly, it's really appreciated. Thank you for your story. And I'll do what I can to push this, because I think you need to be on the James Englishes of the world. I think you need to just keep getting on the bigger platforms, because this is just a small podcast, mate, but I think this story's fucking unbelievable. It shows that people can change. Anybody can change. Doesn't matter how low you are, scraping the barrel, as you say, the lower you are, the more strength you can physically get from that. And just you telling your story, mate, and where you've come. And because I know that there'll be a lot of people saying, yeah, but he's an entrepreneur. Nah, but he wasn't one when he was fucking taking them drugs, was he?
No.
What entrepreneur's doing that? Do you know what I mean? You might have had something in you, but ultimately you weren't displaying it because you were basically telling your mum you were going to die. That was the plan at one point for you in your life, and look where you are now.
I just decided not to be a victim of my past. That's it. Just don't be a victim of your past. Let it push you. It's as simple as that. And just fucking work relentlessly till you get there. That is it. Just always aim to the 3 things I put before anything: fitness, family, finance. That's it. Just those 3 every single day. And that's what I would advise everybody else to do. Fitness, family, finance, and that is it. That's all you need to focus on. But yeah, well, no, it's been a pleasure coming on, and thank you for getting in touch, even though it was last minute.
Yeah, I think when I messaged you last night or this morning.
Yeah, last night.
Last night.
Yeah.
Fucking weird, we've done it, mate.
We've got it done.
Appreciate it, mate.
Yeah,
thank you.
No problem, bud.
Cheers, bro. Thank you, mate. So if you've enjoyed this conversation and you like things like this, make sure you click up there and watch this episode.